Imagine stumbling upon a sight so gruesome, it haunts the city and the nation for decades to come. What would you do if you found the bisected body of a young woman, brutally mutilated and discarded in a vacant lot? On the fateful morning of January 15, 1947, such was the grisly discovery made in the quiet Limerick Park neighborhood of Los Angeles. The lifeless body of a young woman, severed at the waist and horrifically mutilated, lay bare under the Californian sun. The victim was soon identified as 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, an aspiring actress who had moved to the city of dreams, chasing a spotlight that would, tragically, only find her in death. News of the murder spread through the city like wildfire, the media quick to seize upon the shocking details of the crime. The press, ever hungry for a headline, dubbed Elizabeth the Black Dahlia, a lurid nickname that would forever be linked with the mystery of her untimely demise. The brutality of the crime and the victim's striking appearance made for a potent mix, and the story was soon catapulted onto the national stage. As the horror of the discovery sank in, the city of Los Angeles was gripped by a wave of dread. Fear stalked the streets, as speculation ran rampant and rumors took on a life of their own. Amid the panic, the authorities were left grappling with a crime scene that seemed more akin to a nightmare than a real-life horror. In the aftermath of the gruesome discovery, the Los Angeles Police Department launched an extensive investigation. Over 150 suspects were considered, but the identity of Elizabeth Short's killer remained elusive. The case quickly became one of the most infamous in the annals of American crime, a chilling tale of a young woman's brutal murder and the enduring mystery of her killer's identity. The city of Los Angeles was left in shock, and an extensive investigation was launched to find the perpetrator of this brutal crime. But who was the woman at the center of this horrific crime? Who was Elizabeth Short, the woman who would posthumously become known as the Black Dahlia? Elizabeth Short was born on July 29, 1924. A native of Boston, she spent her early life in the quintessential New England setting, and later in the sun-drenched expanses of Florida. A life that, in many ways, was emblematic of the American dream. She was drawn to the allure of California, the land of opportunity, where her father resided. Her move to the West Coast was a leap of faith, a bold stride towards a future she envisioned for herself. Elizabeth Short was no ordinary woman. She was a dreamer, an aspirant, a young soul with stars in her eyes. She harbored dreams of making it big on the silver screen. She wanted to be an actress. Yet, despite her aspirations, she had no known acting credits or jobs during her time in Los Angeles. Her days were spent waiting for that big break, that one role that would catapult her to stardom. The nickname, the Black Dahlia, was something she acquired after her untimely demise. Newspapers of the period, with their flair for the dramatic, often nicknamed particularly lurid crimes. The term Black Dahlia may have originated from a film noir murder mystery, The Blue Dahlia, released just a year before her death. Elizabeth Short was more than just a victim of a gruesome crime. She was a young woman with dreams and hopes, a woman with a life ahead of her, a woman who was more than just the Black Dahlia. A life cut short, a dream unfulfilled, and a mystery that began to unfold. With over 150 suspects and no concrete leads, the LAPD found themselves in the middle of an investigation that would prove to be one of the most infamous in US history. The initial stages of the investigation were fraught with difficulties. In the 1940s, the police and press had a symbiotic relationship, with reporters using cops for information, and cops using reporters to disseminate information. In the case of the Black Dahlia, detectives provided fingerprints of the victim, Elizabeth Short, to the Los Angeles Examiner, who then sent them to the FBI for identification. As the investigation continued, the media played a significant role in shaping public perception of the case. They sensationalized the story, exploiting Short's attractiveness and tragic death for headlines across the nation. This media frenzy sparked a citywide panic and moral panic, with speculation and false rumors exacerbating fear among women in Hollywood. The police had their work cut out for them. Over 150 suspects were considered in the case, a daunting number for any investigation. Among these early suspects was Leslie Dillon, but he was one among many, and the case was far from being solved. In the midst of the chaos, the LAPD found themselves navigating a sea of misinformation and public fear. The brutality of the crime, coupled with the media's lurid coverage, created an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. The investigation was a challenging one, with the police grappling with an overwhelming number of potential leads and a public gripped by fear. The Black Dahlia case became a symbol of the darker side of Hollywood and the dangers faced by aspiring young women in the post-war era. The gruesome nature of the crime, the media frenzy, and the enduring mystery surrounding the killer's identity all contributed to the case's notoriety. Despite their best efforts, the LAPD found themselves no closer to finding Elizabeth Short's killer. The case remained unsolved, leaving a lasting legacy and continuing to intrigue and perplex investigators to this day. Decades have passed since the Black Dahlia murder, and yet the case remains unsolved. What keeps this case alive in the public consciousness, and are we any closer to finding the truth? Over the years, an assortment of theories about the killer's identity have emerged, some more plausible than others. One theory that has garnered much attention is that of Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective. Steve posited that the murderer was none other than his own father, George Hodel, a doctor with a dark side. Steve's investigation uncovered compelling evidence, such as a striking resemblance between Elizabeth Short and a woman in his father's photo album. Matching handwriting samples and the purchase of concrete bags similar to those found near Short's body further bolstered his claims. Despite this compelling evidence, no charges were ever brought against George Hodel, and the case remains open. The Black Dahlia murder case has not only sparked numerous investigations and theories, but has also deeply impacted our culture. The mystery surrounding Elizabeth Short's death has inspired countless books and films, each attempting to shed light on the dark corners of this unsolved crime. The case has even permeated the tourism industry, with tours tracing the final steps of Elizabeth Short and visiting key locations related to the investigation. However, it's not just the gruesome details of the crime that keep the Black Dahlia case alive in our collective consciousness. It's also the haunting image of Elizabeth Short herself, a young woman with dreams of stardom whose life was brutally cut short. In a way, Elizabeth Short has become a tragic symbol of the darker side of Hollywood, a reminder of the dangers faced by young, aspiring actresses in the post-war era. The Black Dahlia case remains a haunting reminder of a crime unsolved, a life lost, and a mystery that continues to captivate us all. The Black Dahlia case takes us back to a time of post-war innocence, shattered by a crime so brutal, it continues to resonate with us today. A young woman, Elizabeth Short, found brutally murdered in the heart of Los Angeles, her case to this day remaining unsolved. Her nickname, the Black Dahlia, a somber reminder of the media frenzy that followed her tragic end and the mystery that surrounded it. Despite a myriad of suspects and extensive investigations, the truth of who ended her life remains elusive. Yet the legacy of the Black Dahlia case persists, not just as an unsolved crime, but as a symbol of the darker side of Hollywood, a stark contrast to the glitz and glamour it portrays. It's a haunting tale that has been etched into the annals of American culture, inspiring countless books, films, and speculation. As we continue to search for answers, we are reminded of the tragic story of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia, a symbol of the darker side of Hollywood and the dangers faced by aspiring young women in a bygone era.